How's it going, everyone? I'm Honan,
I'm Oliver.
and for the first time in a while, we do not have echoed audio because we found the really
Touch wood.
stupid Windows audio ducking setting that was obscurely hidden in the Streamlabs update.
Yeah.
So thank God that's a thing that you look up on the internet and there's nothing about it. So I just had to click on and off on a bunch of different things to find that. So thank
Yeah,
you,
we
Streamlabs.
spent a while trying to find different alternatives and stuff, so hopefully it's all good now.
Now it is. I've done like 5 test recordings, so if it is there somehow in the long recording, I'm gonna
Then
jump out the window.
then it's Warner Music cursing us from their like evil
YouTube
castle
when
that
I
they live
uploads
in.
it and it sees that Warner Music copyright, just throws echo onto your
Yeah,
voice
yeah,
as like an extra fu to everything.
yes. Um, so happy New Year,
Yeah,
I
happy
guess. Welcome to
2023.
2023.
2023, we figured our shit out.
Yeah, yeah, we get our shit together. We can do like the traditional Korean greeting. We put our hands like this and do a little bow. You say,
Oh
hey,
yeah.
fuck, many 받으세요.
Marabayaseo. I'm sure I just fucked that up, but there we go.
Yeah, nailed it. Um, so I guess maybe the place to start is the way that New Year's always starts with the couple reveal,
Yeah.
the dispatch tradition that everyone is like, dispatch. How dare you be so invasive, but also give us the tea? Who is it? Everyone kind of ends up looking forward to it, and this year it was our beloved IU and the actor Lee Jung Suk, who I have to admit I was not familiar with, but I'm not massively into the like drama world, so it's not
I
really my this.
just saw something with him in it right before that stuff
He
happened
he was
because I
just in
watched The
Big Mouth.
Witch. I watched The Witch 2, the other one, or
Mm,
whatever, because I liked the first movie and that like just dropped on Amazon or whatever
mm.
to rent. And I mean, he's not in that movie much. He's like kind of a typical bad guy character in it for a little bit and stuff. But still, he has like one of those faces that's like, oh wow, that's a very extremely good looking person in the movie. Where
Right,
you're like,
handsome actor
yeah,
man.
yeah.
Yeah,
So then I
yeah, yeah.
saw him in the thing with that. I was like, oh, I just saw that dude. Like,
Yeah, I know that him and I used to they like hosted something like 10 years ago, like one of the I think a music show or something.
they've been
So
dating
they've
for 10
obviously
years. No, just
like,
like,
they've been dating for 4 months,
no, yeah,
apparently.
yeah.
And he's recently in Big Mouth with Yuna from God's Generation.
Mm.
So clearly this man is just constantly around incredibly beautiful women, which is clearly not a bad life. But he won an award at one of the end of year shows. I think it was like the SBS Drama Awards or something. And he did this like really long, like heartfelt speech about this person in his life who's like shown him a new way or whatever and how grateful he is and everything. It was very sweet. It was very, very sweet. And everyone watching it was going, oh, to the point that his company came out and they were like, yeah, he's just talking about a friend.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah,
his
it's
good
someone
buddy.
just a colleague that he's close
His
with.
good buddy
And then
Dave.
then literally the next day, and I imagine Dispatch watching that show, and they were like, "Oh, it's time!" And like, so it came out like a day early. I think probably because of that awards show, they just realized it was a good time to capitalize on it.
Yeah.
So they dropped it, and they were like, "Hello, everyone! It's so we know who he's talking about, and it's IU." And then not long after the companies confirmed it. But as because it's not an idle relationship, everyone's just kind of happy about it.
Yeah, and I
Except
imagine.
me, I'm incredibly bitter. But
I was gonna say, how many desks did you break?
uh look, it's fine. There's like there's like two other people who are still single here that I can marry at some point, so it's
Only
fine.
two.
Well, I have high standards.
It's funny. Like I imagine IU is at the point in her career she gave like no fucks about that being released.
Oh
Or
yeah,
whatever. She's like,
no, she didn't give a shit. I mean, I used been in pretty public relationships before.
yeah.
She was in a relationship with Jan Kiha from Kiha and the Faces for
Do
a
you
while.
think that dude would have like way? Because you talked about him being in a thing with Yuna. Do you think like being in a relationship announcement with Yuna would have like way more like crazy fanboys to deal with than IU?
Nowadays, I don't think so. Like
Yeah,
5 years ago, maybe sure,
yeah,
but I mean, Young's been in a relationship for that amount of time, and no one really cares. Most someone's just like, "Hey, when are you getting married?" Like,
yeah. I guess
what's
if he
going on?
dated like Chase Soul, then he'd have to deal with like the nation's visual conversation.
All seven Sign fans in Korea would be up in arms. Um, yeah, but yeah, happy obviously just happy for them, wish them the best. What else? What really else is there to say?
Yeah.
Um, it's it's also kind of nice that they're close in age as well, so no one can kind of get fussy about that. He's 33, she's 29, so it's kind of like okay, that's
Yeah, he's
reasonable.
really Cradle Robin there. Like,
Yeah, he's clearly just after her vast wealth
yeah.
and youth. Um, yeah, like I said, I don't know much about the guy. I know that he donated money to help with the wildfires, so must be a nice guy. I used to be like, right, this is welcome to my philanthropic
For
world.
the 10 minutes he was on screen in the movie I was watching, he was good.
Yeah, and speaking of Yuna and drama awards, there was a funny moment that happened where Soo Young picked up an award, and she her speech is like so classically her because she's so like bold and just forthright with what she's thinking or whatever. She basically was like, "Yeah, I deserve this." She was like, "Yeah, I really did do a great job." Like she was it was very funny. But then, while she was giving the speech, the camera cut to Yuna watching her from the crowd, and then Theon becomes aware that the live feed is showing Yuna instead, and she just goes, "Yuna, it's okay, you can cry now." like that. So just like the way, like the quickness of it and stuff, certainly
That's great.
made everyone smile. So yeah, that was a nice little thing. And then the other piece of dating probably involved one of the least likely people in the industry out of anyone who would ever think would be involved in any kind of dating thing, but it was your boy Shindong from Super Junior,
Hell yeah.
who this was not a dispatch reveal or anything like that. Some rumors started getting spread around that he was getting married.
Mm.
So the label came out to say, okay, he's not getting married. He is in a relationship with a non-celebrity, a younger non-celebrity. They specified. I don't know why.
Why they specify
They
the age of the
that.
person he's dating?
But but yeah, there's no plans for marriage or anything like that. So that good for him. Well done, Shindong.
Congratulations, Shindo.
Yeah, not much else to say
I
about
don't
that.
remember them specifying the age when he dated Momo or anything. Like, I
But
think
Heechul dated Momo. But I think that's
yeah,
pretty
well,
everyone...
no, I'm saying when Heechul dated Momo, I don't remember the label being like specifically dating a younger idol or anything.
Well, I guess because everyone knew
yeah,
who it
yeah.
was. But yeah. But I guess the thing with that is like it obviously gives like memories to when Seungmin announced that he was getting married and he got like fucking dropped by the fandom. Like
Yeah.
Seungmin announced he was getting married and he hasn't been in a Super Junior release since, even though he's technically still in the label and technically still part of the group or whatever. And it's been like
30-year-old man
years.
gets married. Oh my god.
Right.
Like...
But I think the nowadays, like, because Ryowook announced his, and obviously Heechul's announced relationships and stuff, like, people have minded a lot less now that they're, in their mid to late 30s. It's like, actually, yeah, this is a good time for you guys to be, like, hitching up or whatever. But yeah, I don't think anyone necessarily expected that that Shindong was going to be up next in the list of Suju boys to find themselves a girl. Especially since Heechul is now single, supposedly.
Yeah. Heechul's
But
single as we know, as far as we know. That's like
yeah,
I feel like that dude's always dating someone, probably.
yes. And yeah, so that was pretty much it for the end of year, like relationshipy kind of fun stuff. I guess then we have to kind of talk about what started happening right at the end of the year, where people were saying that, oh my god, YG is collapsing and burning. Like, what's going on? Because we had the first kind of big piece of news was that Big Bang members Daesung and Taeyang were allegedly going to be moved over to the Black label
Yeah.
instead of
And that's
remaining
just
under
like
YG
Teddy's
proper.
label, right? Or something?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
a subsidiary, but there's a fair, even though YG10 is the owner or whatever, there is a fair bit of disconnect in terms of like how much involvement YG people have in it. Like Teddy's kind of allowed to do his own thing. He has his own staff and he runs it his own way. Then it emerged that Daesung is in fact not doing that, and he's straight up just leaving YG outright. So he's not going to be affiliated with either. But Taeyang is going to be under the Black label instead. And so Taeyang's upcoming solo release, which does indeed include a feature from Jimin from BTS, which is wild. You can imagine how well certain fandoms receive that news.
I can't wait to have the
the
dumbest comments about like Jimin carrying Taeyang's song, or like the popularity of it being because Jimin's in the song or something. I like
My favorite is wow, nice of Jimin to do charity work to promote unknown singers.
The guy's like one of the most popular like solo songs ever in like Korea, like Eyes Nose Lips.
Yeah. Like everyone in Korea knows that song. Speaking of successful people idols to get married without any backlash. Yeah, so that'll be done on the Black label, and obviously that'll be cool to see. Then it emerged that iKON had all not re-signed, which I think,
or whatever, right?
Yeah, so I think that was kind of expected. I think ever since the BI thing, and then kind of with Bobby's family situation and whatnot, it was kind of like, okay, yeah, like iconically not going to be working the same way that they had been. But I think if anything, people were probably expecting it to be a worse thing. I think they were probably just expecting a disbandment and the members to go their separate ways kind of thing. To hear that not only they all left, but they all re-signed at the same company under the name of iKON, I think was kind of an unexpected.
And is BI, you think, going to be a part again of the group?
I don't know. I couldn't say. There's been talk.
That's like the pivotal thing to them being successful, I feel like, because I feel like that's why they originally were so successful.
He was certainly behind their biggest hits and everything. I mean, I don't know. I think it's possible, but unlikely. It's kind of how I'm viewing it. Well, I mean, even if he doesn't end up actively being with them, it would be cool if he could just write a song for them or whatever, that kind of thing.
Although I just feel like tonally, even his impact is really important to them too, like his sound in their group and stuff. Like, I feel like ever since the BI thing happened with iKON, they never had the same presence.
Yeah, I definitely agree. But perhaps now that they'll be in a different environment and everything, different feelings, they might be able to channel different kinds of creative energies. So they're gonna be under 143 Entertainment, which is a relatively new label.
Sorry, I just instantly thought of the street.
It's a rebrand of another label that was set up by some guy a couple of years ago, and the most notable artists it has under it are Yesa and Mashiro of Kepler. So whenever they finish Kepler stuff, they'll be there hanging out with iKON. Nice. Which is a thing, I guess. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think that they said that there's plans for them to release something in April around that time. So we'll obviously look forward to that. I think it's just kind of unexpected to see, because it's like the GOT7 situation, except like instead of them all going different ways and then coming back together for an album, they've all gone in the same place. I think this is like very rare that kind of thing happens. So
obviously, being the Blink hater you are, you're gonna gloss over Blackpink leaving YG to join.
That's coming up next.
I'm just joking.
As you said, the next part was the rumor that Blackpink would also be moving to or transferring management to the Black label. YG came out and denied this.
Yeah, because I'm confused too. Because there was like the announcement. I saw a thing YG saying Jisoo will have her solo thing in like 2023, and I'm like, I don't see how they could do that
Yeah,
and leave. Like I don't know. It's all that seems like a confusing like
yeah. So,
conflict. Like
I mean, I don't know exactly where rumors and stuff are generated from, but it sounds to me like the Big Bang stuff came out, and obviously one of those was true with Taeyang, and one of them was not true with Daesung.
yeah,
And clearly they just said, "Oh, I guess YG is transferring like all of its artists to the Black label in order to prepare for their new debut." But YG have said no, it's not true. And apart from anything else, Blackpink's contract is up this year. So whatever happens with that, happens with
I
that.
feel like for both sides, it just makes no sense
Yeah.
to
And
go
like I say,
Blackpink or to leave YG for them. Like I feel
yeah,
like
yeah,
they are just whatever you're doing is
yeah,
working. So
yeah,
like
yeah,
I just
exactly.
like what,
Um,
yeah.
and yeah, as you said, they did confirm that Jisoo is finally going to release her solo. Um, they said that it's that she's already filmed or taken the jacket photos and stuff for it, so it has to be coming up presumably fairly soon. Probably within the first 4 months, I would guess, but it's YG, so you could never be sure.
I just like the curiosity I have for what the sound of a Jisoo solo is gonna be. Like I feel like you with like Jenny, Lisa, and Rose, I feel like you could expect what it was
Right.
gonna sound like or have an idea, you know? Like Jisoo's it's like it could
It
be
could be
like
anything.
anything. Like I can't figure it out for the life of me what it could be. Like Rose I
Yeah.
knew was gonna be kind of like an artsy singer songwriter like style. Lisa you knew was gonna have like the hip hop like release and stuff. And like Jenny's
Yeah.
I still would say Jenny I feel like still had the best song as a solo artist. Or I guess you'd say like the catchiest as
Yeah.
far as choreo and chorus and all that
It's a
stuff like
yeah.
that. Like I remember it almost like it's a Blackpink song kind of thing. You know, it's
Oh, excuse me.
although Money was song of the year if we're talking like.
Oh God. Am I done? I'm done. Okay.
Yeah.
I think yeah, Solo kind of felt like more of a Blackpink song. I don't know, but I hope it's an album. They're saying it's like a solo album. I hope it's not just like 2 songs. It probably will be, but
Well, Lisa's was just like 2 songs. There's La Lisa
yeah,
Money.
yeah,
Rose's was Gone and On the Ground.
yeah. Jenny's is just solo, so
Yeah.
it's probably going to be the same. But
Jisoo just drops
still,
like a 10 song banger of an album.
yeah, it's actually just like one continuous piece.
I
It's like
would
2 hours
love
long.
for her to do like I feel like she could do like the rock kind of
She
release.
could. I mean, that was the song that she did that she did when they were on tour when I saw them was Gravity. If I fall.
When I saw
It's fine.
Blackpink live, she also did a rock cover. That's what even makes me like want
She
to
does that kind of
see
like
them.
power rock kind of thing,
Yeah.
you know?
Because they had that band
Um,
with them live, and they like went to the stage playing like heavier rhythm and stuff as she was singing and stuff. So like
yeah,
she could totally pull it off vocally. Like,
yeah. I would love, incidentally, for the band six, like the guys who tour with them, to actually be involved in their recordings at some point because they genuinely add a lot to Blackpink's songs. Like
that's like the
when you,
YG in general band, right? Because I think I've seen them in clips with
they
Big
work
Bang
with
and
Big
everything
Bang
too.
before,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, they're really really good at what they do, so I think it would have been it'd be cool to see that. But just as an aside, um, yeah. So like I say, YG denied it, and then they announced on on the turn of midnight on January 1st, that Baby Monster would be making their debut. And I think everyone was a little bit surprised at first that they were going to go with the name Baby Monster because that name has floated around YG for 8 years or
Yeah,
so.
wasn't
Like,
Miyeon like a part of something that had to do with Baby Monster or whatever
well,
too?
like the Blackpink girls at some point have had that name associated with them. So it was kind of just assumed that it was like a generic name for YG trainees.
Yeah.
And that like once their group was formed from them, that they would come out and you know, be a be a different name. But they've gone with Baby Monster. I'm not that keen on it as a name.
It's I mean, I don't know. I guess if I was just for the first time hearing Blackpink as a name, maybe I would be like,
Bearing in mind that
but now
that
it's like
Blackpink's
a
initial name
name
was
like,
their initial name was Pink Punk, so it could have been worse.
yeah, that is worse. But I mean, Blackpink now is like an iconic name or whatever, you know. So
Yeah,
I mean, you just never know. Like, it may sound ridiculous now or something, but like later you'll be like, oh yeah, it's like it's Baby Monster or something,
Baby
you know.
Monster.
Like, but it is very like it almost makes me think of like baby metal when I hear it or something, you know.
Yeah,
Like,
it's hard. It's hard not to think of other that stuff. And I'm just like, in my head, I'm shortening it to BM, and then or like the BMs, and then BM from Card just appears in my mind. He's
yeah.
like,
Not to mention that's kind of a hard thing to Baby Monster as a name, I feel like restricts you musically almost or something. Like, I don't know.
hmm.
It's
I
one
can't
of
imagine
those.
any ballads from Baby Monster.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. I don't know. Maybe I'll grow to like it or something. I don't.
Yeah,
Isn't there like seven or something in this group?
yeah.
And from the
It's
teasers,
a
so this could be like
it's a
the first time they made a big girl group. Like, I feel like it's always like four members with them. If we think about like 2NE1 to Blackpink, right?
yeah. Apparently, there was also a Chinese duo under a YG subsidiary called Baby Monster that is no longer around. So the thing is, we don't know for sure all that much about the members, but what the kind of controversy was that initially people thought that the group was going to be made up of girls who are in the ages of around 2004 to 2009. Um, and it then emerged that actually the youngest member potentially is born in 2009 or 2010, making her a complete baby.
Yeah. No, well, I guess they're living up to the name of the group then. There really is
Yeah,
a baby.
and people were pointing out that like YG kind of culled a bunch of their former trainees, like Soyeon from Promise Nine, Moonsua from Billy, Yuha, Mion, all these got like incredibly talented women who are now very successful and well in varying degrees of success in the industry, um, because they're all born in the 90s. And at some point, YG was like, "Hey, you're too old," and got rid of them.
It's wild to me to get rid of. I mean, any of them are really good, but like Miyun, like especially, is like a crazy visual and then also crazy talented. Like, it's wild to me that they didn't find a way to debut her at YG. Especially when you see how good she is in Idol and stuff. Like, but I mean, I am glad because I feel like she suits Idol perfectly. Like the
Yeah,
whole
yeah,
group
for sure.
dynamic is
I think all of them really suit like where they are.
yeah.
Um,
I could see Moon Sua suiting a YG concept really good. She has a bit of like a fierce kind of look to her and stuff.
yeah,
Out of all of them, I feel like she could have
be the
really
most YG.
thrived in like a YG group, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I could see as well. But yeah. But one thing that's also, I guess, interesting about the Baby Monster lineup is that it's pretty multinational. And they definitely seem to be focused in the Southeast Asia market quite heavily with it. I'd say. I think probably following on from obviously the huge success that they've had with Lisa.
Yeah, there is two Thai members, right?
Yeah, two Thai members, two Japanese members,
Yeah.
and which is making it so it's more non-Korean than Korean members, which is quite unusual for YG. Like hasn't done that very much in the past. I guess maybe like they've had like one member in their groups that has been international, but yeah. So yeah, clearly they've got a mind on. It looks like they're going to focus more on Asian promotions with that lineup, but at the same time, they're gonna be huge, so they're gonna have the freedom.
It'll be interesting to see if they have like the English levels of like Rose and Jenny and stuff. I think that's like a huge part of
Right.
blackface success is how fluent the English is for the
Yeah.
three of the members.
I mean, titles tend to always be really fluent in English because they tend to be quite rich and have come from like international schools and stuff. Obviously, we don't know about them, but like that's why you have like Minnie and Bam Bam and Sawn and people have all been really good at English just because they've gone to international
Yeah.
schools. Or Jamie, like she sounds like she's American, right? But
Yeah.
she's like fully Korean and just went to international school in Bangkok, and now she just sounds like an American.
You've seen some of that, like I think Won Young from IVE did too, or something. Like
Yeah,
she's
one young's been no, she's just been studying. She has like a tutor and stuff, but
yeah,
a tutor is clearly like from California because she sounds like a valley girl
yeah.
when she talks English.
I gotta say, recently, like Itzy like dramatically got
Oh,
better
it's
at
very good,
English,
yeah.
and
It's
like when
really good.
when I saw them live, like especially Ryujin's like English, like really impressed me because like it, she did really good, like talking during the concert and like having actual like
Yeah,
in depth things she was saying. It wasn't just like generic English sentences like "we're very happy to be here" or
right.
something like that. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
like
It wasn't like when Twice were there and they'd like come up with a few bits.
yeah. She had like a
No,
general lingo kind of like understanding
yeah.
of the
And
language.
given that Leah is the only one who's actually like a native speaker,
Yeah,
it's here extremely impressive. You can tell that there's been a lot of work that they've done to get good at English.
and they've done a
Makes
couple of
me.
those.
I'm remembering when I saw a job posting at Blockberry for teaching English, and I was like, "Ooh, good, glad I didn't go for that one."
Kind of dodged a bullet on that.
Yeah, but that'd be a good job.
Yeah, maybe they would have taken 80% of your paycheck.
Maybe.
The well, I guess that's actually a good transition point, maybe to talk about
Yeah.
what we were going to talk about today.
Um, yeah, I guess that is the. Oh, there's one other thing we should mention just quickly first, which is about everyone's favorite dozen Lucas. So Wavy had their first comeback in 2 years. I know you're a big fan of Wavy.
I love Wavy. Yeah, they're great.
And they did it without him. And then at the SM Town and like end of year show thing, they teased that Super M would be returning, presumably quite early on in 2023 because, well, once Taemin is discharged and Taemin's coming out of the military in April, but Kai has to enlist this year, so they have a very limited they've got a very limited time frame for when they can do that. And then they showed on the teaser that there were 7 light pillars, which presumably indicated the 7 members. And now people are saying, well, is one of them going to be Lucas, or is it going to be someone else, or is it just nothing? It's just lights.
Don't you think it'd be really weird to not put him in the Wavy comeback and then to put him in the Super M one? Like,
yeah, it's extremely weird.
Yeah, I feel like they're gonna do maybe another member from one of the boy groups. I mean, there's many options there.
Right.
Like,
it would track, right, if they just do that, like just get someone else in.
Dude, oh my god, please just put like, oh, dude, Changmin, come on.
Yeah, I mean,
come on.
Put Changmin in, put Eunhyuk in.
Imagine
like,
those raspy high vocals from Changmin in a Super M song, dude.
I mean, his son is already in Super M, so it'd just be him and Bacon going off on each other.
Dude, but... he's such a perfect addition to that lineup. Like,
it would be cool, actually. It would be very cool. Yeah, so I guess we'll find out.
A Heechul drum solo. We can. I mean,
hell yeah. Yeah. So that, and then we also, of course, have new Got the Beat, the female equivalent of Super M with the same lineup again.
Baby. Songy singing that part is like all that is burned into my brain from that.
I have yet to hear the song, so I will have to look out specifically for that. But they're dropping a full mini, so that's cool. We'll get to hear hopefully a good variety of tracks and stuff. I've been just murdered by all of the teasers that they've been dropping.
Yeah, so you haven't seen the performance video or whatever yet. So no. You gotta like, dude, short hair Taeyeon and Windy together is on the next level, dude.
It's on the what? That's
Next. They're all that lineup is amazing for Girls on
yeah.
Top. Like I could listen to them. I said during the live when they showed the clip that I could watch them sing a song about the creation of cardboard boxes and be entertained because it has Taeyeon, Solgi vocals melding together, and Windy's
Yeah.
in there also just going crazy on high notes and stuff. It's the lineup like of the dance breakdown too is so cool with like BOA and I think it was
Sure.
BOA, Karina and Hyoyeon had like the dance breakdown in this one
Okay.
together. And,
Cool.
it's all it's perfect lineup, like it's
Yeah. I love that. Um. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I guess one other thing I wanted to touch on before we dive into the heaviness is going to be about who is the who for whom the writing may be on the wall, at least in terms of contracts and stuff, and who we
yeah.
should be seeing soon. So we had Astro. Four of the members of Astro have all re-signed. Rocky is apparently still in discussion, I guess, because Rocky's had more his name's been in the news for less positive reasons more recently, mostly that he doesn't seem as committed to the group activities as the others and stuff like that, and it seems like he wants to run off with this actress that he might be seeing or whatever. Which fair play, you know, do what you want to do, Rocky. And also they're waiting on MJ because MJ's in the military and you can't negotiate new contracts while you're in the military, apparently. So apart from that, Astro appears to be continuing on as normal. Perhaps they might lose one member, or at least not to Fantagio, but
They still
we'll see.
have Unwoo.
Yeah, and that was obviously the main one. People were thinking Unwoo could go to a big acting agency and do his own thing there, but
I've never
he
seen him
wants to
act
stay in
or
Astro.
whatever because I don't know if I've never watched his acting before.
I think he was pretty crap at first, but he's gotten better. Is my understanding. That's
I'm
just
sure
what
it's
I've
hard
heard.
to
I haven't
like.
been
I mean, people like. I know it's so common for musicians to become actors and stuff, but very few actually do it like
already
really
good.
well. Like yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
IU is like an example of a great at both. You know, like
Right, right. And I think just especially because it must be kind of hard for Unmu in a way because like when everyone is just like, "Wow, you're really handsome," he probably is like, "All right, but can we like?" I'm also a singer and an actor, and maybe I would like some acknowledgement of my ability as a singer or an actor,
yeah,
rather than just being really handsome. Um,
being a face genius.
yeah, face genius. Yeah, the man's coined expressions in the Korean language.
I've just been
Like,
waiting and waiting for the Taeyeon acting debut, and I'm still waiting.
I
I
don't know if
need
Taeyeon would
I
want to
need a
actually.
Taeyeon drama. Let's do it. I need
Um,
so I need the reverse. I got IU's acting with Taeyeon's voice over the top of it in Hotel de Luna. Now I need an IU show with IU's OST over the top of it, like
yeah,
to complete the circle.
that'd be a good roundabout. Um, so we mentioned Blackpink's are up this year. Super Junior recently announced that they have renewed yet again. So they are looking like they will be hitting at least the 20-year mark.
Are they
as a
not?
group.
I thought they were under like a subsidiary or something, right?
They are. They manage themselves in their own label under SM.
Yeah, so they'll
Label
probably just
SK.
keep. I mean, they'll
Yeah.
keep going
Well,
as long as.
there's kind of been consistent rumors that Heechul wants to dip out, but I think basically the way they phrased it is you can't leave.
Yeah.
If anyone says they want to leave, the others are like, no, you're in this shit for life. And they've obviously found a good balance where like not every member will be present for every show or every promotion or whatever, and like
Yeah, I feel like
that's
it's
okay.
really rare to see Heechul like in a Super Junior performance, if at
Especially
all.
performances. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is what it is. But you notice, like, even in the most recent MV, Celebrate, like at the ending scene, like Shiwon wasn't there. Clearly, he was just was busy, and they couldn't really.
And then Heechul always just has like the most random cameo in all their comebacks now.
Yeah, he
like...
pops up. There's like, oh, there he is. Yeah. But also in SM, some of I don't think all of NCT are under the same contract because that wouldn't make sense.
Mm.
I don't know. God knows how anyone at SM
23
worked
different
out.
contracts. Yeah.
Oh
Like,
Jesus, yeah.
what
God
if
knows
there's
how that
like,
was worked out.
what poor soul is like in charge of all of like
Yeah,
the.
some intern who has to manage that. Like, yeah. But given that NTT's technical debut date was 2016, it does mean that some of them will be reaching their contract date. Like people like Taeyong, Ten, and Mark, and so on, will be finishing up this year. But given that it's SM, it's very unlikely that there would be any issues with
They
that.
kind of have an interesting thing because they have to deal with a lot of like foreigner contracts too.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, the entire Wave E is a lineup of Chinese members and everything else. So I wonder like how difficult it is when you have so many foreign members with like visas and everything else with contracts and stuff like that. Like what that ends up being in the discussion.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to try and attempt to understand.
Yeah.
um, yes. So SF9, I think, are up again. I remember they renewed in 2021, and I think they did like a 2 year extension. So their 2 year extension will be up this year. But given that they all renewed last time, probably they will renew again. But I guess we'll find out. They're about to release their 12th mini album.
Depends. I feel like fourth gen is one of those like things where we keep seeing members leave groups. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like that's one of the main things that happened a lot in fourth gen. Like, oh, this one member is just gone. Okay.
Yeah.
Three different groups now or four?
Yeah.
That's happened.
Victon are up at the end of the year. So that will be an interesting one, given that, of course, they lost a member due to the drink driving stuff. And then someone was about to come back out of the military, but the others have still yet to go into the military. So that obviously causes some issues and whatnot. So I guess we'll see with that. Coming up very soon in February, we have WJSN and Brave Girls, two Queendom groups.
The winners of Queendom going up.
Yeah. And I don't know, a lot of people are thinking that well, I don't know. Brave Girls members have said that they want to continue now, that they want to like kick about for at least a little bit longer and want to do more stuff. So hopefully that means they'll sign maybe for like another 2 years or something. WJSN, I find it unlikely all of the members will resign. It's certainly the way the Chinese members will finally be like, well, freedom, and we'll be at least out of the. They might still get managed by Yuehua, but they probably won't be associated with Starship.
Oh, so like they're still in a contract, even ones like Cheng Zhao and stuff like
yeah,
that? Oh.
they're still to this day they're still technically members of WJSN. They just haven't been there for 4 years.
Imagine they just like all return and resign.
Yeah, they're like, we're back. Yeah.
That'd be pretty incredible to have Cheng Zhao just return out of nowhere.
Yeah, people suspect that Bono will be the one who doesn't.
Because of the acting success.
Yeah, but I guess we'll find out.
I
think with the group that's that
pretty
big,
happy to return in Queendom and like everything.
Yeah,
and did the comeback that they had.
Yeah, I think WJSN in general are happy, but I guess there's probably maybe a slight feeling of like they've been pushed to one side because of Ive's success, which is kind of fair. I don't know. Well, we'll see. Obviously, I think because there's so many of them, it's like it'd be easy to think that one or two of them are gonna choose to do something different, and maybe they'll just be in different companies but stay under a group or whatever. Who else?
That bringing that up kind of makes me wonder, like if Love Dive or something being released by WJSN would have like anywhere near the same affection to it, like. I don't know. It's very hard. I guess when there is a new girl group, there's that like this is new like thing to you know. And
when there's a new girl group that happens to have extremely popular members,
when you have Yujin and Wang Yun in your group already at the start of it, I guess that does propel things.
I think it was a done out, but yeah. I think another group for whom the writing is on the wall is Momoland. Their contract's up. I would, if I were Momoland, I would not be wanting to resign at MLD. I'd be getting the hell out of
I
there.
feel like they had like good releases though. Like I actually
They
liked
did.
Momoland things we checked out. Like
Momoland have had a lot of good tunes, and they certainly haven't deserved what they've been given by the company that shares their name.
yeah,
Um, it would be great, obviously, if they could stay together and continue to release stuff together. But they need to get out of that company for sure. And then the last one is Pentagon, and I, but I guess with Boys Planet, it's going to start in February, of course, and a certain Pentagon member is competing in it. We'll talk about that when we do more Boys Planet stuff closer
is
to
he
the
the one
time,
who's
I
like
guess.
30 that's competing in the show? Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
He just the main producer who just came out of the military, and it's like the most bizarre thing ever because he was behind like energy. He composed Energetic, like the most famous Produce 101 boys song. You make me feel so high.
They're gonna end up performing like his
Like,
song in front of him on the show. Or whatever.
well, you know how they do how they do those like 1 minute intro videos.
Yeah.
He just performed all of the songs he composed for the Produce series. He did three different songs.
It's really like he's already successful, so it's really interesting. Like the
Yeah. And it caused a whole bunch of drama. Supposedly, like Jinho unfollowed him on Instagram, and like
that's
the other
another
members.
member unfollowed.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Jinho's the really short one, the one that was going in. He went into the military midway through Road to Kingdom, and they did like that release. Like they were all like crying and yeah. Anyway, and the other members have all kind of come out and been like, "Whoa, it's not a big deal. Like we're all still together and whatever. Like don't worry." But with contracts coming up, people are kind of like,
Yeah.
something might be a bit off there.
I don't know. Getting ghosted on Instagram is always a
Yeah.
Everything's fine. I didn't...
especially because Jinho's the oldest member, so for him to unfollow Huey is like a bit of a thing. But anyway, well, I guess we'll find out more about that closer to that time. But yeah, I just wanted to touch on who.
Do you think
might be out
for him if he makes it in? It's a good like I don't. How good is it to be in like the produce group now? Like I don't know. Like I'm gonna be really interested in seeing how successful after Kepler the Kepler members are or whatever, and who will be like the one. 'Cause I don't feel like it's gonna have anywhere near the same after group success of like Eyes One.
Yeah, well, the parallel of is between the boys from New East who went on Produce 101, because they'd already been in a pretty successful but not massively successful, which I guess is how you would classify Pentagon, group. Like and it was the thing, they turn up, there's all these young trainees, and then fucking like JR and Baeko and Minhyun from New East walk in. They're like these guys who've been in the scene for, at that point, it was like 4 or 5 years already. And it's probably even not as an extreme, like Huey's case is probably more extreme than that. But Minhyun being in 101 was still like very beneficial for New East. It certainly helped give New East's career a bit of a shot in the arm at the end of it. So I can see the argument. I
have seen the 101 members in general kind of be successful because there's like King Daniel's massively successful and stuff.
Yeah, of course. I think more likely is that Huey's looking at his own future and thinking like, oh, what I want to do after Pentagon. If Pentagon's going to be, because obviously they have more members who need to enlist and stuff, it's going to be a while. Like one of them is MIA in China. Like maybe it's just like, well, I want to still stay in music. I want to keep my own name out there, so I'm going to go on this show and do that. Just I don't know. Like I said, we'll talk about that one more when the show comes up. But
the show's not far away from happening, right? It's like
starts first week of February, I think.
Unfortunately, first I am gonna have to watch the virtual thing because
it
has Loha in it and Aurora, I believe, as well.
Oh yeah, it does. Yeah.
I suppose we should talk about what will probably be the main title of this episode. 44 minutes in.
Yeah.
I'll put a timestamp for people who are only here to do the Chuu gossip, I guess.
Yeah. So, well, yeah, you said it. You said it yourself. It's the Chuu thing.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to remember. Like last time we talked about it, we left off where she had like she obviously we'd already talked about her leaving. We talked about the rumor that 9 of the members had filed injunctions
kind of thing, right?
or something. We still don't know if that actually has happened or not. By the way, we've got no idea. Heejin and Olivia still continued to be on the show you just mentioned, so that hasn't affected that in any way. So God knows.
I guess one big thing that happened since that is they canceled the comeback.
Yes. So that's the big thing. So that the comeback that they were pushing out to happen, it would have already released, I think, right at the start of the year. They did postpone it indefinitely as a result of the boycott. I think they saw that it was it was very dramatic. I have to admit, I was surprised at how significant the drop was. It was only like a couple dozen pre-orders or something. And I was thinking, yeah, there'll be a drop, but I was thinking, there would still be thousands of people who don't give a shit,
yeah.
Who just aren't aware of that.
I think they just underestimated Chuu.
Underestimated Chuu's popularity.
People have for Chuu,
and probably underestimated just how loud and annoying Orbits can be when they have their minds set on something.
Well, I noticed because I do follow them on like Instagram. There was like this dramatic shift of likes you would see on the post, and then every comment was just like Snake Company like thing on the bottom, like, and Chuu deserves better cool. And all this other stuff like that. There.
It's pretty cool to see a fandom like come together that strongly to do something and seemingly enact some kind of, I hope, positive change. At the same time, I would think that I mean, Blockberry kind of made the point that like, well, yeah, the situation is shitty, but we can't, like, money doesn't grow on trees and we need money. So this is the way it is, and like, if you want it to not be this way, then you have to support us more rather than less, which is obviously is like, okay, but the way that the situation was set up was obviously not going to ever be sold to fans very well.
Yeah, and fans know that if they keep spending money on it, none of the girls are going to see that money too.
So unless they get shit tons, yes.
Yeah.
But I mean, that is kind of the way that it always has been in K-pop companies, and perhaps that this might be a like a watershed moment where there's going to be at least more transparency between companies and idols, saying like, oh, this is how the earnings are working, and this is what you're going to get paid. Because a lot of the time this is part of the reason they have people debuting so young. You have some kid who doesn't really, you don't turn up with your own lawyer or anything, because it's just not really the done thing. You just get a contract. You're like, oh boy, I get to debut, so you sign it.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about like. Well, it's strange though, because like IVE, for example, has like Lee Seo, and she's super young. But I don't watch like IVE and go, oh, what a weak point of the group or something like that. Like
right.
she does do a great job like in the group, but it is also a weird thing. It's like this person's like not even like a freshman in high school, like, or barely a freshman in high school.
She just had a middle school photos come out,
and it's like
your graduation.
You're working insane, exhausting like hours at that age already. Like,
yeah. Obviously, I'm sure it's not the bad thing that you just go to school and it's like, oh shit, you're just in like the most popular group in the country right now. Like, I want to be friends with her.
Yeah. Yeah. But, I mean, so far it's not like it's been a bad thing, I guess.
No, but it's obviously she's the kind of case where it obviously works out well,
Hmm.
hopefully, where they make so much that they must be
Yeah, I guess
very soon
this
making good
is a
money.
massive group, massively successful, so that's why it's
Yeah,
working out well. And then it's same
yeah,
with like New Jeans. It's from Hive, so it's
yeah,
like, yeah, she's fine. like,
yeah. Exactly.
like,
And yeah, there was a thing about like the New Jeans members all getting all these expensive gifts and stuff. And it's like great, they're in a position where they can afford to do that. And the
yeah,
thing with Blockberry is that they haven't been in a position where they can do that. And we've talked before about Blockberry's finances and some questionable choices that they've made, like not turning up to lawsuits to but where they just didn't do what was like some investors like, here's a bunch of money, can you do this?
yeah.
Blockberry's like, yeah, 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 and they just don't do the thing and then get sued and they don't even turn up to court. So it's just some decisions being made by the company are absolutely insane. But I guess I don't know. Let's get into it. So, Dispatch released this big kind of expose, or they kind of released a bunch of like chat logs and things about Chuu, or like with Chuu involved and stuff like that, and kind of detailed a bunch of the stuff that um, led up to the point of her leaving. And including the kind of things that Blockberry was saying were like Chuu being abusive to the staff or whatever.
Yes, so from my understanding when I was reading that, and it made me like laugh just how ridiculous the Blockberry accusation was when I finally read what was supposed to be like the Chew bullying was she did like a choreo, right? That they
She
didn't
just
want
spoiler, yeah,
revealed or something. And they basically texted her mom like Chew can't be doing that. She sent that to Chew and she just let like ha 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 I won't be in the comeback or something along those
yeah,
lines or whatever. That was the bullying basically. Was that like interaction the tone of Chew's text or something along those lines, if I'm correct from what I read.
yeah, yeah. Basically, she did like a little choreo spoiler on some video call or something, and then they texted her mom to be like, "Hey, she can't do that," because
Yeah.
they realized that her mom was essentially managing her independently. Um, and then she was basically like, "Hey, it's 1 second you're getting mad about this. Like everyone does this." And then it was like, "Yeah, I'm going to sit out the album. I'm not going to. I don't want to do Queendom. I don't want to do any of this stuff." Like, and I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't describe it as abusive, but obviously she was at the end of her tether with how everything had been over the past like 2 years. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I don't know. She probably could have held her tongue a bit, shall we say? Especially when she was saying like, "Oh, are we only going to talk about this once I die?" or something like that. It's like, okay, just chill a bit.
Obviously
Um, but
if
yeah,
she's just been pushed to like a breaking point at that point, I feel like if someone's pushed to that point or whatever, I feel like choose like at that point was so calm compared to like some people if they were pushed to that like breaking point, like it's still not like nothing
yeah,
she did I would be like, oh my god, what a like mean response or something, to like it's just I don't know, it's all. And not to mention, Chu at one point she said like her dad's like driving her to her job basically when she's supposed to have like these manager like people at Blockberry that actually are responsible for her and stuff. Like it's a
yeah.
pretty ridiculous running of a company when you hear that. Like
Yeah, and so Blockberry have at least acknowledged that the way that they handled it was almost doomed from the start, is the way that they kind of were acting like it was sounding. Um, so like the first thing is that the number that's been floated around for the cost of the Loona project was like has varied, and Jaden Jung even said that he deliberately inflated how much it costed, or how much he said it cost, because he wanted to generate more noise and marketing about it. So that obviously immediately sets a bar of like how trustworthy is anything coming from the company in regards to it. So Dispatch said that the time it took to debut all of Loona, and this is, we can obviously track this from the first moment that Heejin had her solo debut up to the point where the full group debuted was 542 days. And in that time, they released 12 solo albums and 3 unit albums. So 15 albums, all with music videos and sometimes multiple music videos filmed around the world before the group had even fully debuted. And the estimated cost, Dispatch's figure is 6 billion Korean won, which at current rate is about 4.7 million USD, which is not a small amount of money for a company that doesn't have an established artist at all to generate any income. Like, they're doing that solely off of investment.
Like, unless you're one of the big, I guess it's big 4 now, like, labels.
Yeah.
Why the hell are you debuting an 11-member group? Like, I just
12 member
12 member. I'm sorry, yeah, 12-member group. Like, why? Yeah. That's 12 and people's gonna be. Think of the cost. Like, it's like it's just wild to me. They obviously didn't perfectly plan for 12 members and the cost they were gonna have to have from that. Like,
yeah. And they said, like, that they approached, or that they talked to the girls, and they said, like, look, the situation is not good financially for us. You know, we don't have money. We it was a reckless undertaking that we that to go about this debut project the way that we did. We knew that it was very risky. And the only way to kind of keep the company afloat and have any hope at success is if we have these very, like, unfairly weighted contracts. And they did say that they didn't try and underhand the girls. From what, obviously this is from what they've said, that they presented it to them like, hey, like, we're in a shit show here, and in order to do this, you're gonna have, like, everyone's gonna have to make sacrifices. And the girls accepted that because obviously they wanted to stay together and be an active group or whatever. It's obviously then made funnier when you realize about the Blockberry staff who are committing tax evasion, or whatever, at the same time
of apparently like 30 something million dollars or something like that. Like,
right, which would have been enough to debut the group over multiple times or something. So obviously but well, I'll point out that those guys are part of the Ilkwan group, which is like the conglomerate that owns Polaris, of which Blockberry is a subsidiary. So it's
their money is technically not all coming from.
That's not coming from Loona. That's coming from the fucking arms dealing and other stuff that their parent company gets up to.
Supplying military contracts.
Yeah, which is very lucrative, especially at the moment. So the detail of their contract, this gets a bit murky. So the point is that you have the revenue share, and then you have the expenses burden, shall we call it. So who gets what percentage of revenue earned, and then who has to pay what percentage of expenses incurred. So all entertainment activities, Blockberry would take 70% of earnings and pay 30% to the members themselves. And then for expenses, they would be settled at 50-50. So in theory, if expenses and revenue are a very similar amount, the members would always be at a loss.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what people have pointed out as being unfair. But obviously that under the presumption that expenses are at the same level as income, and that's not necessarily the case, because once you're selling a lot of album copies or going on a concert tour, your expenses should be notably lower after a certain point than your revenue.
Yeah, the contract like that only works if they're like massively successful. You have to have insane levels of success for a contract like that to work, like 70-30 especially.
I was trying to like work out like a very average ballpark for when we were talking about Omega X, right?
Mhm.
About how why 109,000 albums wasn't enough to for the members to get paid. And it's probably the same kind of thing. And those are kind of similar figures to how Loona were doing. I think Loona were doing a little bit better than that. Um, I don't remember off the top of my head how well their last album sold. I think it was like
A little
100.
bit of insight I can give on how expensive it is to release music, even being in charge of your own music. If like Spotify campaigns even to get like can be insanely expensive. So there could literally be hundreds of thousands of dollars spent just on like ad campaigns
Mm-hmm.
for a group. So like, and especially when you're a K-pop group, I can imagine the ad campaign money is unfathomable amounts of money sometimes, probably. Like,
Yeah. So flip that. The last release sold 154,492 copies. It's only pretty good.
yeah,
um, and I remember the Black Eyed Pills song, Stacey's producers saying that it costs like 1.5 to 2 million USD just to produce an album. Like the whole process of making and releasing an album, because they were saying, yeah, even though Stacey did really well, we can't pay them yet because it costs a lot. Um, so maybe they're breaking even on those. Maybe they're getting a little bit of something, but clearly there's not much money that can, if any money, that can trickle down to the girls themselves. Um, so for most of the girls, because they're not doing all that much outside of the Loona stuff, I think if not content, they probably went along with this, understanding the situation and knowing that, you know, they just kind of had to keep working and keep grinding, and hopefully they would eventually hit a point of success where they can just make good money. But for Chuu, Chuu is getting all the side hustle, and she's not seeing any of the result of it.
yeah, especially with her
Um,
YouTube and everything, and it grew so fast. Like, and you could see how successful she was in variety content. She had to just start thinking in her mind, like, okay, well, I could be making money in doing this, you know, like,
yeah. Um, so I should also point out that Blockberry had like a post expenses settlement system. So they divide revenues first and then deduct expenses, which allows them to make the members account for more expenses than they should have, just by fudging the numbers a bit, basically. But anyway, so in January of last year, Chuu, and I do love the idea of have like a Chuu coming in for like a crisis meeting with a team of lawyers. I don't know, it's quite a funny image to me just because of the way that Chuu is as a person.
yeah,
I think it's easy to just imagine her solely as how she is on camera, right?
just
She
smiling, walking in with like,
yeah, just like smiling, like waving at everyone, and she fucking slams paperwork down on the table, like sign this bitch. Um, yeah, she filed an injunction, and the courts agreed that because of the amount of money that she was making doing various stuff, that she should be appropriately compensated, and the company wasn't doing that. So they essentially they flipped that,
yeah,
and changed it from Blockberry getting 70% of her revenue to Chuu getting 70% of her revenue. And they also included an addendum in which if any one of them, either party, violated the terms of their contract, that the guilty party would have to pay a settlement of 50 million won. Um, I think it's like 40,000.
it's not chump
40 grand.
change, obviously. Like,
It's not an insignificant amount of money,
yeah,
and I respect that she was like, yeah, I can drop 40K if I fuck something up.
yeah,
So part of her contract was that she had the right to decline to participate. She could be absent for a maximum of 3 Loona full group schedules per month, or 3 or less album activities per month. So she could choose not to appear on a maximum of 3 shows, or film 3 content or whatever it might be. And also, if there was album related stuff like music show promotions or whatever, she could choose not to be there if
she
she
has the
wanted.
decision not to be overworked, and to make
Yeah.
what make money from all the shit she's doing. Like, it's not crazy to me that she had a problem with only making 30% when she was working so much. Like, you're seeing Chuu everywhere, like all the time. Like,
Yeah.
do you think what she's done here has created like an interesting possibility of the future for other idols? Like, I wonder if you ever see something like this kind of scenario with something like Billy and Suki or something in the future. If you
It's
see this start becoming a thing where the really popular idol starts kind of conflicting with their company.
yeah, it's definitely possible. I mean, like we say that there's like the idea of this being like a landmark kind of case in terms of company transparency and stuff. It certainly could also lead to more fairness in terms of groups doing with individual members doing stuff and them getting paid. I will say that by and large, at least for larger companies, because again they can afford can afford to do this, um, non like album or group related stuff tends to be very favorable for the artist. Like if they're doing a
Yeah,
commercial,
see,
they
I
get
thought there would
money.
already be a different contract for like variety music
Yeah, it's like
content,
not a different
like,
contract, but
but
like a
like a
different
different, yeah,
clause.
yeah, different
Yeah,
split, I guess you would
yeah,
say,
yeah,
of
yeah,
like,
and it is like that. Like I remember a while ago, they like YG and JYP and SM all had their different weightings, and it was quite interesting as well. It was like, you know, like for an album release for the album sales, like the company was taking most of the money, but for an overseas tour, the group would get most of the money. So just the way that it changed was interesting. And generally, it was like that. Yeah, like if you're doing some brand deal, especially if it's just you get the money. Like you know, you did the job, you get paid. And then there's only the expenses deduction of like, well, the company paid for you to travel there and do all of that stuff.
yeah, but
So
there's so much more
yeah,
costs incurred in making music
yeah,
videos
yeah,
and music versus Chuu showing up and being Chuu
right,
somewhere, you know,
exactly.
and like
Yeah.
that's
Um. So yeah, I'm hoping it will be something along those lines, and I hope that people like Suki aren't going through a similar kind of thing where there's especially because she's a foreigner that it's obviously a bit easier to exploit it's easy to exploit
yeah. I
foreigners
guess
in
that's one
Korea
thing we haven't really talked about because
by
like in
doing
the
all
Loona
this.
situation, there's Vivi, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's why Vivi was not listed in the name of those who supposedly filed injunctions, because if she did, and she wouldn't have a job and she would have to
Yeah.
leave, and she found a new job very quickly. So anyway, but I also know that Hyunjin has opened a personal Instagram account as like attacked by a mosquito, and Vivi apparently is going to do the same soon. So that's another thing to note. Um, but yeah, let's carry on with the
I
chronology. So, back in Flip That era, when they were preparing for the music video, um, Chu was due to have a personal schedule um, at some point on that day, but the filming of the music video got delayed because that always happens. Like, who has ever been on a music video set that lasted the correct amount of time? Like, any filming set, there will always be delays. But because they had to wait like an hour, and they called her up and were like, "Hey, can we like delay like an hour because we need to film this group scene?" And her mom was just like, "No, she's going, and we're going to charge you the 50 million more." um, so yeah, that happened.
I just don't. I don't know what the outcome could be that's good to all this. You
Yeah,
know, like it doesn't seem like outcomes to things like this when you're talking about like a corporation are ever good. Like, you know, when you're in this kind of just like battle of locked horns like this with so much money is involved and stuff, like, it's hard to see a beneficial outcome
yeah,
to the
and
members
well, and
themselves.
that's the thing, right? It just it sucks for the other members, like, um, because like on that set, like they have this transcript of one of the members. It doesn't specify who, calling up the boss and just being like, hey, like, you know, Chuu's leaving and we're supposed to film this group choreo thing that we rehearsed as 12, and now she has to leave and we have to adjust to 11 on the fly for this, you know, like how that's not fair on them either.
Yeah.
You know. And I think in the end they ended up having to scrap the scenes from the video entirely. It just, which is money down the drain essentially.
Nothing the members have seemed to say in this though have seemed to point to them negatively towards Chuu or anything like that, because they
No, you'd hope not.
well, like,
But
I mean, as far as we know, we've seen, if anything, like support of Chuu
yes,
from the members.
yeah.
Like,
But it's in situations like that. I'm sure there's. I mean, obviously we don't actually know what Chuu's perspective on that day was. We just know that the mom was like, "Okay, yeah, I'll wait another hour," and then as soon as she hangs up, she's like, "Right, I'm activating the damage clause." And obviously we don't know. We've seen Chuu and her mom on stage together because her mom was a singer as well. But it's not easy to know exactly what the dynamic is there. And obviously, I don't know. Maybe there's the fear that her mom is like more pushy towards like, hey, get your money than Chuu herself might be. But who knows? Who knows?
yeah.
Anyway, so that all happened. And then I kind of got to the point that we're at now where Chuu ended up leaving the group as a whole, didn't really participate in any of the album promotions or the tour, and is now basically a soloist.
Well, I feel like the moment the kind of lawyers became involved with Chuu and Blockberry, I feel like that was inevitable that she was not going to be in the group. Like, I felt like the moment she was changing the contract and stuff, like they were always going to try and not have Chuu in the group anymore after that.
Yeah,
like there's definitely just going to be some major saltiness between both parties after that to try and continue together, you know.
yes,
It's not similar at all to any situation where you see someone like win, leave a company, and everyone's happy with each other and things like that, and they just like, it's not the same as what we're seeing on that side of K-pop, where you're seeing people leave, stay in groups. Chuu's situation, I feel like, is just so different from all those other people doing that.
Yeah, it's rough, and we've seen stuff of like older stuff where she would like ask for something and Blockberry just wouldn't give it to her and things like that. And then we got some hard data that extended from 2016 through to December 2021 about the settlement period and who was being paid what, basically. And the numbers are large, so it's kind of, you have to like try and bear these in mind. So the revenue was just under 2.6 billion Korean won, which I will over 2 million USD. And the expenses were just over 1.4 billion Korean won. So that clearly is a big discrepancy. So there should be profit. That's how things work. And then obviously they have to change the 70-30% thing, which meant that from that profit margin of what, some like 700 million or whatever it was, it ends up, as well as after tax deduction and stuff, that the amount that Chuu would get would be just under 68 million, out of what could have been 700 or something million. Which is still a considerable amount of money, but it's like 50,000, you know, when it could have been well into the hundreds of thousands, more celebrity kind of money, not 50 grand for 4+ years or whatever.
Yeah.
Although this was up to December 21, so it's kind of
Makes you really
before
wonder
her super
where a
famous
lot of the
father.
funds are going. Like, I don't know, where's all the money, yo? And it's like when everyone on, where's the money? Where's it
Yeah,
going? Like, where? It
where's the
just
money, Lebowski?
before all this happened, I would have thought Chuu, if anything, got preferential treatment or something
Yeah,
because of being just like kind of dragging the popularity along with her, you know, like
she even said like, "Hey, I haven't been saddled with like everyone's debt, right?"
yeah.
And they were like, "No," but obviously, like her being the main earner would have been a factor in that regard. But yeah. Well, one other number to crunch is Luna's earnings. At Blockberry said Luna's earnings were at 18.2 billion won between 2016 and 2022. So 18.2, a lot of money. Just over 14 or 14 and a quarter million USD. So that's a solid chunk of cash.
Yeah, so
Um,
either they're horrible at how they spend the money they earn, putting it back into the group, you know, like atrociously bad at doing that.
well, the
Or
expenses
like
were 13.2 million. So the actual the room of profit was about a
I
million.
want to see Blockberry make an entire chart of the expenses and where it all went.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Like that's what I
But
want to see.
so so with a million in profit, but based on what their actual like method were, Luna should have been due, um, like what was it, 5.4 billion was how much Luna themselves should have been due. So Luna should have been paid 4.2 million USD, but because there was only a million or so in profit, obviously that doesn't work. You're supposed to pay them 4.2 million and you have 1 million. That the math doesn't math. So they are currently still in 3 million USD of debt together, divided by 12.
Yeah.
Um,
How much of that incurred cost is the CEO's paycheck?
well, quite. It's when every time whenever a company is in financial hot water and they say everyone has to make sacrifices, it's always this doesn't start at the CEO.
Yeah,
It always starts
he gets a
at the
bonus.
lowest.
The New
Yeah,
Year's bonus rolled in.
yeah, exactly.
So, like it's,
Um,
I would love
yeah,
to see a Blockberry like pie chart like breakdown of the incurred cost from the money they made or whatever. Like
yeah. So Chuu herself, since the start of 2022, was able to turn her own balance positive, and it was never done as a group thing. It was always like each member got what they personally earned. It was never like you paid into a big pot and then each member got a share. So Chuu has herself covered her own debt, like that 200 million one. Like Chuu is now over that on her
I
own.
mean, I think it is perfectly fair that Chuu does not have to be responsible for anyone else's
Oh
debt
yeah, yeah,
in the group.
for
Like,
sure, for sure, for sure.
and I feel like a company should be responsible for that kind of failure,
Oh yeah.
not
Well,
the artist. Like,
I think a point to make is that it's clearly possible for the members to be able to earn enough to cover those debts, even with that business model.
yes, exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
because Chuu had started doing it, she earned 70 million before the change in contract, and she's earned 150 million or something in the year after it, or the half year after it. Obviously, that was kind of coinciding with her popularity increasing, her getting more and more brand deals and stuff. And obviously, not every brand is going to be interested in like getting the same. You know, people. As much as I wish that it was true, people aren't as interested in casting Go On as they are in casting Chuu, even though Go On is an icon and deserves all the money in the world. Um, like, and so that that just kind of is the way it is. But since April last year, she's been running under the Chuu Corporation, where she's been getting everything herself, um, which is hilarious. I love the idea of like Seoul's landscape in like 2030. There's like a giant Chuu tower, and
Imagine you go
she
to
just
work every day, like it's just like pictures of Chew everywhere in the
yeah.
office.
Well, there are worse things.
Yeah.
um, yeah. So then there's the way that it's all lined up. Um, it's like ultimately it comes down to just a classic case of a business biting off more than it could chew.
Oh my god, you didn't. I'm cutting that out. No, I just.
Like, they spent more than they had. They didn't have. They spent a load of money in the hope that it would come back as a return many years down the line. And while it was kind of looking like it was going in a positive trend, because of a coincidental or like coinciding explosion of popularity of one member, that one member starts saying, "Oh, hang on a minute, I feel like I should be earning a bit of money here." And the whole kind of, I think if Chuu had never become super popular, Loona probably would have just carried on as they did, and probably by the time they reached the real ending point of their group contract or whatever, they might have been getting to a point where they're breaking even, maybe, because their trends were all very positive. They had a world tour, they had increasing album sales and stuff like it. Things, the outlook was positive, but obviously people do deserve to be paid for the work that they do.
There was enough profit there that they deserve compensation. Like
yeah. So it's rough, and Chuu herself hasn't really said all that much. We kind of have been expecting like a big statement or some kind of press conference or something from Chuu, but she hasn't done that. She did. There was this little mini interview that Dispatch did with her, where it was done like not live. They sent like a series of questions, and then like she got back to them via a representative. So it was, I imagine it was a kind of lawyered through response rather than like a genuine kind of live interview. But basically just saying that it was because a member said in 2021, like, to her, "Hey, shouldn't you be getting paid?" And she was like, "Yeah, maybe you're right, member. I should be getting paid." And she said that she just didn't fully understand the system, and she didn't know about. She didn't have the time or the means to really ask about it. But then once she sat down and did the math, the contract ended up in practice making it almost impossible to actually see the fruits of her
Well,
labor.
for a time, I'm sure there was like an actual trust there, until you start realizing, oh, I'm getting screwed. Like,
Yeah.
like,
And she just never got the data.
yeah.
And apparently, and Blockberry went through with an audit, like an internal audit, that people thought that Chuu might have like made them do, but she denied that she made them do it. She said that they did it on their own, and she was like, okay, whatever. Maybe that has something to do with they knew that the CEO and people were tax evading at the same time, so maybe there was some kind of internal investigation that came from above in that regard. And then yeah, basically that's that.
Trying not to be the cynical person I am, like the best possible outcome I can see out of this for the members that are still in Loona is
Yeah,
the company incurring the cost and the girls just breaking out without having to pay any kind of penalties or anything, and then maybe going to different companies and having something, just I just don't see a better outcome than that.
yeah, it's yeah. Ultimately, that's kind of the problem, right? Is that Blockberry don't have the money, and if all of the members are now, all of them bar two, at least in terms of their contract situation, are wanting out, there's not really a way that Blockberry can settle it. you know. And in legally speaking, the other members haven't earned enough on their own there's no payment they can get, as far as I'm aware. I don't think that any court could rule like, oh yeah, you actually haven't been paying the money that they should have been paid or whatever, like because they did sign the contract. It's only if they rule that the contract isn't legally binding or whatever, and I don't think they're going to do that. But probably in the future, it'll be like you can't make contracts like this. That's kind of, at least that will be the positive outlook, and then yeah, it's whatever
I
the members
really
choose
hope
to
it
do.
doesn't happen, but worst case I could see is like if they do leave and they go to these different companies, and then either that company has to incur the fee and money, or like everything they make from working somewhere else in the future still has to pay
Still goes
off
back.
the
Maybe,
Blockberry
maybe.
contract, which is a really
It,
shitty thing. But
it's yeah, it's possible.
I'm not gonna put it past them not to do that.
Yeah. And there's still stuff that needs to be resolved between Chuu and Blockberry in terms of like what they said about participating in schedules, like what she could or couldn't do. Because Blockberry have denied that they didn't give her all the means to participate in every schedule, and that was only on her or stuff like that. Um, there's also, I guess, a degree of her kind of taking some of her anger out on stuff and whatnot. I think saying that she was abusive is putting it too far.
Yeah.
But certainly some of the lower management, they're not the ones making those decisions, you know. But they just kind of happen to be the unfortunate middleman a lot of the time. But then there's also been transcripts of like some of the directors and stuff, just being so condescending and treating her like a child. One of them being like, we're talking about the maths and stuff about changing to 50-50 instead of 70-30, and him being like you finished grade school, right, or something, let's do the arithmetic. And she's like, who the fuck are you to talk to me like that,
I would love to see her make like Chuu to make like that FU money and just like buy out all the members, like
right, the Chuu
contracts,
corporation
be like
signs all
goodbye
of them.
Blockberry or whatever, like it'd
Yeah.
be awesome. I mean, that's a lot of money you'd have to make in a quick amount of time. But
what's funny in a dark kind of way is that I'm sure if Loona is a tantalizing business prospect. Like, you only have to look at the size and the passion of the fandom, the trend of their sales, like the relatively successful world tour, to know that if you were to get this group under your label, they're going to do well. Like, people are going to be tuning in, providing, of course, that you're going to adequately compensate them. And if you present yourselves as like, hey, we're the good guys, we're going to make sure that they get paid every time or whatever, people will, you would imagine, would flock to that.
yeah.
But of course, you have to then saddle that initial cost, and that's obviously how it always works, right? Like,
It's not
if
gonna
a new
happen,
company,
and it's wild thing to throw out there, but like Lee Soo-man was involved, right, at one point with Loona.
people have said that. I mean, Lisa Man's
Right.
like actively trying to avoid getting arrested by Interpol at this point, but so maybe he's a bit busy.
Hey, Elon Musk doesn't seem to mind losing $200 billion lately.
Yeah. You're right. Elon Musk should buy Loona. It all makes sense. Grimes feet. Well, they're not married anymore.
Oh,
But Grimes did the thing with Loona back in Why.
See the
It all makes
craziest like ideas thrown out there.
Yeah. I mean, there's been talk about everything, but like, for example, in some crazy world, if Chuu decided to stay independent and genuinely did bring all the members under, though, she would need to secure investment in order to fund producing an album, because although she has made good money from brand deals and stuff, I don't think it's enough to fund making a Loona album. So then she would be faced with that hilarious situation of like, shit, actually, I've got a load of money from investors, but I can't afford to pay it to the members yet. We need to get paid. She probably like have that moment of like, shit. I mean, it is actually kind of hard to run a company.
Unlikely, but maybe not absolutely insane. You've seen Hive purchase a lot of things like Source Music and all these different like subsidiary things. Like, how wild would it be to see them just roll in and be like, buy, like, move aside Blockberry, like, just grab like Loona and stuff.
Yeah,
it would be a wild thing, but it's unlikely, but maybe the likeliest of companies to actually be someone who would incur a cost like that or something.
Yeah. There's also been the inevitable P Nation talk, like, come on, Papa Sai, come in and save the day.
I don't know with that, because he seems to have like artists so quickly out the door too. Like it's
Well, his artists signed pretty short contracts. That's why.
Yeah.
Whatever. Like whatever the outcome is, I just hope that it ends up being good for the members, obviously, because they've been through a lot and they haven't yet really seen. Although obviously it must be very satisfying for them to know that they have such a strong fan base who really, really supports them and wants them to get paid. Currently, it's leaving them kind of out of a job essentially. Yeah. So I really hope that they can find a situation that suits all of them, and hopefully it doesn't result in members being separated or whatever it might be. I hope that they can all keep doing what they want to do. I guess the closing remark is what Dispatch's closing remark was, which is the conflict between Blockberry and Chuu is much more complicated than what was known to the public. It cannot be determined to be exclusively the fault of one side. It was a collaboration of payment settlement and distrust, of incompetence and disrespect. I think is a pretty reasonable way of putting it.
Yeah. I guess to conclude things, I just really hope the members don't have any debt at the end of all this, I feel like that's probably the best outcome you're gonna get. Like, them not owing money is like the best possible outcome probably out of all of this.
Yeah.
Because most outcomes don't look that great. So
yes. Yeah.
Hopefully. And I mean, come on, Hustle, what a gem. What are K-pop companies doing, bro?
I mean, the amount of talent in general in that group, there's so much talent.
Hive, come on, you have the money to just lose.
I don't know if I want them to go to Hive.
They have the FU money to just splash everywhere right now.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, yeah, there's many options, I guess.
What company, I guess, final thing, what company would you think would be the best in the fantasy scenario? Like, absorbing Loona.
I don't know. What company would fit their kind of lore-heavy aesthetic and
SM Entertainment? If we're talking lore-heavy
stuff,
and
weird music, it probably would be SM.
I mean, if we're talking about people making wacky lores, it's definitely SM.
But SM have never signed an active artist before. I don't think. Maybe
first time for everything. I'm gonna just put it in the air, like let it sit there. And...
It would be interesting for sure if that was to happen, but I think more likely than not they're going to end up going to some new startup company or like some kind of.
Do you not think the likely scenario is all the members individually ending up at a bunch of different companies?
I think we're going to see a chunk of them going to one company and then others doing other stuff. I as much as it is a sad prospect, I think the chances of future Loona OT12 activities are probably not going to happen.
Yeah, I think it's too difficult for Chuu and the other 11 members to end up together somewhere else.
Yeah, especially while we still don't know if the filed injunctions from the 9 are true or not. They probably are, given how quiet they've been on social media and whatnot. But then we don't know what Hyunjin or Vivi are going to do, and yeah. I guess we'll see, probably, because they should. I don't actually know exactly. I think from the way it sounds, they made them all sign that new contract once they were, or in 2017 or 2018, before they debuted as a full group. So whatever deals that Heejin and Hyunjin have been there since 2016 were on is different. So those contracts shouldn't be up this year. They should be up in 2 years. So might have to wait a bit, but maybe we'll find more stuff out this year. Hopefully it's a faster resolution rather than something that drags on and on and on.
Yep, hoping for just good outcome. That's it. I gave my fantasy pick of company I would love to see absorb them, and I guess Oliver kind of did with that some entertainment. I would love to see anyone in the comments put kind of what you think would be like the best fantasy outcome of a company getting Loona as OT-12.
Yeah, just well, what is your dream outcome?
Dream scenario.
Realistic dream for
realistic
for
dream scenario. Yeah, I guess
yeah.
Elon Musk buying the group. Like, I don't want to see those in the comments or whatever. Like, that's a little.
I'm
too
I'm
far
not sure
out of
anyone
left
would
field.
really want that.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Anyway.
I don't think people want that anymore. Actually, yeah. All right, this has been the K-pop podcast. I guess I'm gonna call this the Chuu arc. I'm Honan.
I'm Oliver.
Goodbye.